Welcome back to the Crafty Yarn Barn. My name is Nancy Ellen. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make this beautiful little baby blanket. This blanket is a granny rectangle. It's an endless granny rectangle made into a blanket the size of 30 inches by 38 inches. And I put a pretty little ruffled edge on the border. So let's get on up to the craft room and I will show you how to make this blanket step by step, easy for even beginners. Let's go. These are the materials that we're going to need to complete our project. I have some Lions brand yarn. It's called Ice Cream. The color on this yarn, it's called Tutti Frutti. It's a lightweight 3-ply yarn. It calls for an H8 5mm hook, and on each skein it's 394 yards. I purchased 3 of these skeins. Look at those colors, aren't they pretty and bright? 2.5 of these skeins are going to be the blanket, and then we're going to use the last portion of our 3rd skein to make a single crochet border around the edge. And then I've got this Bernat Baby Sport yarn. We're going to use this, it's called Soft Pink. No, it's called Baby Pink. I'm sorry, Baby Pink. It's also a 3-ply lightweight yarn. It calls for a G6 hook, 4mm hook, and we're going to make a ruffled border out of it around our blanket. Isn't that pretty? Look at those colors, how beautiful they look together. It's going to make a really pretty, feminine looking little baby blanket for a little girl. I love it. Love, love, love it. So pretty. And the other items I have my 2 hooks, my G and my H hook. I have some row markers, some yarn needles, and some plastic yarn darners that I use to sew in my tails. And I have some scissors. Check these scissors out though, y'all. I want y'all to see this. It looks just like a little crane. Look, check it out. I love it. My husband bought these for me as a present. It comes with a little leather pouch to store them in, to put them in your little sewing kit or your crochet bag. And the clasp on it is magnet, and I just love him. He's my honey bear. I just love him so much. Isn't that sweet? I just love that. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started in making our blanket. First, we need to make a slip knot to put on our crochet hook. We'll leave a yarn tail for about 4 to 5 inches long. Take the yarn, we wrap it around our fingers, and push that yarn tail through between your fingers and the loop of yarn that's on your fingers. Pull your fingers out and grab that loop of that yarn tail. Hold your yarn tail and the yarn that's hooked to your skein and pull it tight. And you just put your hook right in that loop and pull your yarn tail, and it'll tighten right up on your hook. Drop that yarn tail. Now we're ready to chain 24. And I hold on to the slip knot that's right here at the base of my hook. And to make a chain, you go underneath the yarn, and it's called yarn over. Turn your hook downward where the yarn catches right there in that groove, and then you pull the yarn through the loop that's on your hook. That's a chain. So we're going to yarn over, turn your hook down to catch that yarn and pull it through. That's chain 2. Chain 3, chain 4. Now we're going to go all the way to 24. To adjust the size of your project, you could increase your chains. Say for example, if you wanted to make a table runner, you would just increase your chains for your foundation by a multiple of 3. We're going to chain 24. Go ahead and finish your chain 24, and I'll see you there in just a second. Okay, now we've chained 24. We're going to put 3 double crochet into the 6th chain from the hook. So let's count it off. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right there into this 6th chain. So you can see we're going to go right into this chain and put 3 double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, go underneath the yarn, and we're going to take our yarn and put our hook right through that 6th chain from the hook. You're going to yarn over, pull that yarn through that foundation chain, and that leaves you 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull your hook through the first 2 loops. That leaves 2 left. You're going to yarn over and pull your hook through the last 2 loops on your hook, leaving only 1 left. That's a double crochet. In the UK, it's referred to as a treble crochet. So we're going to do it 2 more times into that same foundation chain. So yarn over and put your hook through that foundation loop. Go underneath, yarn over, and pull that yarn back through that loop, leaving only 3 loops left on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull your hook through the first 2 loops. That leaves 2 loops left. And yarn over and pull your hook through those last 2 loops on your hook, leaving 1 left. We're going to do that 1 more time. Yarn over, put it through your foundation chain, yarn over and pull it back through that foundation chain. Yarn over and pull your hook through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull your hook through the last 2 loops. That makes a set of 3 double crochet right there into the 6th chain from the hook. Now what you're going to do is you're going to skip 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain you're going to put 3 more double crochet. So I'm going to go slowly through the process 1 more time. We're going to yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull it through the second 2 loops. We're going to yarn over and go right back into that chain, yarn over and pull your hook through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull it through to the second 2 loops. Yarn over, go back into the foundation chain, yarn over and pull the hook back through the foundation chain. Yarn over and pull your hook through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull it through the second 2 loops. That gives you 2 sets of 3 double crochet. And all the way down your foundation chain you're going to skip 2 chains, and then into the 3rd chain do 3 double crochet, skip 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain 3 double crochet. Do that pattern all the way down your foundation chain, all the way into the very last foundation chain, and I'll see you there in just a few moments. Now I've completed my 3 double crochets into every 3rd chain all the way to the end of my foundation chain. Now we're going to chain 5. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to take our hook and we're going to do a slip stitch right into that last foundation chain, right where you did your last set of 3. And we're going to slip stitch right into that. So put your hook right through that chain. I'm going to hold that yarn tail out of the way so you can see. We're going to yarn over and pull our hook through that foundation chain. It leaves 2 loops on your hook. You're not going to yarn over on this. You're just going to take your hook and pull that first loop through the second loop. So take your hook, and you may need to turn your hook slightly downward to get it through. So you pull that loop through that second loop, and now you only have 1 loop on your hook still. That's a slip stitch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to let this tail just hang, just continue to let it hang down behind us. We'll sew that into our project with our yarn needles in just a little bit, but we're going to go back the other way. This right here is our foundation chain that we started with. So all of our double crochets that we made are actually facing downward now. So we're going to go back the other way onto our project. The first thing we need to do is we need to chain 2. So 1, 2. And what I want you to do, if you have a row marker or a stitch marker, we're going to put our stitch marker right into the middle of that second chain and clasp it shut. And what I want you to see, so that you'll know that you're right in the middle of that stitch, look at the yarn here. 2 pieces of yarn. It looks sort of like a V. So you have 1 here and 1 here. And if you look on the back, there's just going to be 1 piece of yarn on the back of that row marker. So when we come back the other way, that's where we'll finish off our round of our foundation of our rectangle. Now what I want you to do is I want you to put 3 double crochet right into this chain 2 space. Here's your set of 3 double crochet, and here's your other set. Into that space in between those sets, I want you to put your hook through here and make 3 double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, put our hook in that chain 2 space, go through, grab that yarn and pull it back through that chain 2 space, and we're going to put 3 double crochet right there. And here's number 3. So we're going to skip over and into the next chain 2 space. We're going to put 3 more double crochet. There's number 1. There's number 2, and there is number 3. We're going to skip over to the next chain 2 space, and we're going to do that all the way down till the very end. Into each of the chain 2 spaces, put 3 double crochet and stop there at the end. Do not crochet into that chain 5 space that we have on the very end. Stop right there before it, and I'll show you how to turn your work. Now we're at the end of the row. First, we're going to do 3 double crochet right into that chain 5 space. There's 1. There's 2, and there's 3. For our corner, we're going to chain 2. Now we're going to put 3 more double crochet right into that same chain 5 space. And this is the end of our rectangle. That's 3 double crochet. Now we're going to chain 2 for the other corner. And if you need a little room to put your stitches, just slide that around on that chain 5 little chain that you have there and do 3 more double crochet into that same chain 5 space. That's 2, and there's 3. Now we're going to put 3 double crochet right into the space between each pair of 3 double crochet on the prior row. So see the 3 double crochet here and here? We're going to go right into this space in between them, and we're going to put 3 double crochet. So that's 1, 2, and here is 3. Now we're going to skip over and into the next space between the 3 double crochet right here. We're going to put 3 more double crochet, and we're going to continue that on until the very end, and till you get down to the very end, and there's a chain 5 space on the end. This is our other end of our rectangle. So go ahead and do your 3 double crochets, stop here at the end, and I'll show you how to do the other end of your granny rectangle. Okay, now I've finished putting my 3 double crochet onto that side of my row. And what I have left is my chain 5 space here. This is where our other end of our rectangle is going to be made. So into this chain 5 space, what we need to do is put 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, and then we want 2 double crochet, because this post that we started with when we started our round, this chain 2 post, is going to count as a double crochet. So we're going to attach to it, and we're going to finish off our round. So let's go ahead and walk through that. We're going to put 3 double crochet into the chain 5 space. So that's 1. There's number 2. And there's number 3. We're going to chain 2, and that's our corner. We're going to put 3 double crochet. That's 2. And there's number 3. Now we're going to chain 2, and that's our other corner. Oh, look, our pink is starting to show up, our light pink. And we're going to put 2 double crochet. Whoops. So 2 double crochet. And to fasten off this row, what we're going to do right here is we're going to remove our stitch marker. And where we remove our stitch marker is where we're going to put our hook. So we want to put our hook right into that stitch. Stick it right through that stitch. We don't want to go through the space. We want to go actually through the stitch. So see the 2 pieces of yarn on the front, and there's 1 right here on the back of your hook. We want to go through that stitch, and we're going to do a slip stitch. So yarn over and pull it through. You might have to twist your hook downward and then go ahead and pull it through the loop that's on your hook. That's a slip stitch. Take your scissors, so I get to use my pretty little stork scissors, and cut it with a pretty good sized tail, about 5-6 inches long, and we're going to finish off this row. So yarn over and pull your hook through the loop that's on your hook, and pull that yarn all the way through, and grab your yarn and pull it a little snug, and that fastens off. And that's the foundation of your granny rectangle. Now I've sewed in my tails. Now we're going to start the first round onto our rectangle foundation. The way I like to start and fasten on is this is where we ended our row. I like to turn my work just like you would any other project. When you get to the end of the row, you turn your work the other way and you start crocheting the other way. When we fasten off, we don't want to just continue building our rectangle around and around and around our foundation. What happens is your rectangle, and the same concept for making granny squares, it'll make your project a little lopsided. The same as when you fasten off in the stitch at the end. You go into the stitch, don't go into the space. Otherwise it'll start pulling your project up and it won't be so much of a rectangle. It'll be sort of like a parallelogram or some type of lopsided wonky shape. So when you get to the end, turn your work, and we're going to start our first round on our foundation a little bit further down. I don't start at the same place I fasten off with. I consider that a little bit of a weak space. You don't want to keep growing onto that weak stitch where you fastened off. Come down a little bit further onto your project. The way I fasten on is I do a slip knot, and I put my hook through the space where I want to fasten on at, and I put my slip knot right onto my hook, pull my yarn tail, and get that slip knot right onto my hook a little bit tighter. I take that hook and pull it back through that space that I stuck that hook through. Get my yarn tail and I'll pull it through as well and let it hang down. And now your yarn is through that space, see? So I get a little bit closer to my project and we're going to chain. We're going to chain 2, and that's going to fasten that new yarn right onto your project. So we're going to chain 1 and chain 2. This is the chain 2 post that we're going to fasten off to when we come back all the way around when we do round 1 onto our foundation. So I'll put my stitch marker right in there to mark that space. Easily able to get my hook right into that space once we come back around. And we're going to put 2 double crochet right into that same space where you fastened on your yarn. That chain 2 post is going to act and be considered a double crochet. So there's your set of 3 into that space. We're going to move down to the next space between the next set of 3 double crochet and put 3 more right into that space. And we're going to continue that all the way down to your first corner. When you get to the first corner, I want you to stop and I'll show you how to make the turn onto your corner and create your corners on your granny rectangle. So I'll see you at the corner in just a few moments. Now into my corner. The corner is that chain 2 space. We're going to put 3 double crochet, then we're going to chain 2 and put 3 double crochet all into this chain 2 space. So here's our first set of 3 double crochet to finish off this side of your rectangle. There's number 2 and there's number 3. Then we're going to chain 2. That chain 2 is going to be your corner for your next row. If you need a little space, just slide your stitches around, and you're going to put 3 more double crochet into that same chain 2 space. And this makes the turn and makes the top of your rectangle. Now we're going to go over into the next chain 2 space. We'll do the same thing there. 3 double crochet. That finishes off the top of our rectangle. There's number 2 and number 3. Now we're going to chain 2. That's our corner. And we're going to turn and put 3 more double crochet. And that turns it to the other side of your rectangle. Now we're going to go all the way down this side of our rectangle and put 3 double crochet into each space till you get to the other end. And into that end you're going to put 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. You'll go over to the next corner into the chain 2 space and put 3 double crochet, chain 2 and 3 double crochet, and then come back around here and we're going to fasten off our work. And I'll see you there in just a few minutes. We've finished our round, fastened off, and now we have our yarn tails. Let me show you really quick about sewing in yarn tails. I don't like to wait till the end to sew in yarn tails. It makes me dread the end of the project. So as I work my projects, if there's yarn tails, I generally sew them in as I go along. And I just don't like seeing all those yarn tails hanging as I'm completing my project. I like to see it nice and pretty and and as I'm growing my blankets and projects, to see how it's going to look in the end. So I get rid of those yarn tails fairly quickly. So I put my yarn on my little yarn needle, or you have metal yarn darners if you have those, and I go right into the yarn and work my way down the project. Since this is a variegated color of yarn, I'll keep my yarn, the yellow portion of this, sewed into the yellow. This pink tail, I'll sew it back the other way and stay within that pink color where it matches. You don't want it to show through. So I go into my stitches. I don't generally go into the spaces between the stitches. Sometimes I may, but I try to keep it into the yarn, the fabric of that yarn. So as I'm sewing it in, that yarn tail will get caught right into that yarn, and it'll stay pretty snug and tight. And I'll go down and follow the path of the yarn, the direction that the yarn is moving. So as you look at the project, you won't see that yarn getting lost into your stitches. And I'll come down this way for a pretty good ways, and I'll go ahead and make my turn, and I'll go back the opposite direction that I'm sewing, and I'll come back this way as well. I won't just keep going, because what happens if your project gets pulled on, if I clipped my yarn right here, as your project's getting pulled on, it's going to pull that yarn tail right out of your project. So then I'll come back, and then I'll sew back the other way on my project. And that way, as your project's getting pulled and pulled on, your yarn's generally not going to get pulled out where it's sewed in. Sometimes with this lightweight yarn, I'll actually go back down and I'll make one more turn and go back the other way. So I'll go down, turn, come back this way, and then I'll come back the other way, and then I'll clip my yarn pretty tight to my project. And right here, I'll go ahead and show you how I clip my yarn. I'll take my yarn and I'll pull it just a little bit. Clip it next to my project. And as I pull my project and loosen it up, that tail gets lost in those stitches and you don't see it. And I'll do the same thing for this pink. I'll sew it down, I'll come back the other way, and then I'll come back the other way one more time. I'll see you back here in just a second once my yarn tails are sewed in. Alright, all the yarn tails are all sewed in and looks nice and pretty and neat, so we're ready to start our next row. So remember, what you do is you tone your work and you're going to fasten on and you're going to start the other way. Now, if you're going to use this yarn that I'm using, this Ice Cream Lines brand Tutti Frutti yarn, one of the tricks just to share with you what I did when making my blanket, you see you have a little yellow before it starts the blue color. I don't want to start right here on this yellow. You have a little bit to go before it turns to blue. What I think that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start way around over here. So by the time the yellow finishes out and starts to turn to this pretty seafoam blue color, the seafoam blue is going to make around and where we fasten off. I don't want yellow on top of yellow. I want my colors to be really random in this blanket, and the same colors, I don't want them touching each other on the other rounds when we come back around. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to come around here and start my yellow fasten on here, just like I showed you earlier. Do my 3 double crochet. When I get to my corner, your corners, I'll have 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And as you build your blanket and make your rounds on the sides, you'll start being able to put 3 double crochet before you get to your next corner. And then you turn your work, you come all the way around and fasten off. Here's another sample granny rectangle where I put on another row so you can see how those colors look and pop out. And as I grow your rectangle, you're going to have more spaces here to put your 3 double crochet. So there's another one that you can see as a sample, and you'll see how those colors really look so pretty together. Now, for your blanket, after you make your foundation, which is the pink on this one here, the hot pink, This is my first round onto that granny rectangle foundation. I did 1 round. You're going to do 31 rounds to complete a baby blanket that's the size of 30 inches by 38 inches. Now check the comment section down below. I'm going to have some resources for you. There's a link that'll show you how to attach 2 skeins together, or if you get to a place that you want to stop a color in this variegation and start a new color because you don't want colors attaching to each other or stacking on each other rather. I'll put the link down how to connect your yarn so you can just keep crocheting into your project without having yarn tails. I'll have that link down there below. Also, see the links below for all the materials we used, the yarn that we used, and I'll see you back here in just a little bit after you get your 31 rounds. Okay, I've fastened off my work, I've sewed in all of my yarn tails, and my body of my blanket is complete. Now we need to start to put on our edging. We're going to do a single crochet edge all the way around, and I fasten off the same way that we have been with our granny rectangle. I'll make a little slip knot. I'll find the place that I want to start my border. We're not going to go into a space this time, we're actually going to go into the stitch. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to put my hook right through the top of this double crochet, that stitch. You can tell you're in the top because you've got 2 pieces of yarn right there on the top of your hook. I'm going to hook that slip knot onto my crochet hook and pull it through that stitch. Get my yarn tail out and let it hang down. We'll sew that in later. And we're going to do our edging all the way around in single crochet, and we're going to do it into the top of the stitches all the way around. This is going to help our body of our blanket be a little more sturdier, help it lay flat, and give a good foundation round for our ruffle edge to be attached. So we're going to chain 1, and that attaches our color. Right there, when we come back the other way, all the way around our blanket, in the top of that chain, that's where we're going to fasten off our work. I'm going to go ahead and mark that with a row marker or a stitch marker, whatever you want to refer to it as, and put that marker right there. Seems like I'm having a little trouble getting it in there, but anyway, there it goes. We're going to go right into the next double crochet, right into the top of it, and do a single crochet. So how to do a single crochet is you stick your crochet hook through the top of that stitch, yarn over and pull it through. You've got 2 stitches on your hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull it through. That's a single crochet. In the UK, that's called a double crochet. So we're going to stick our hook through the top of the next stitch, yarn over, pull it through, and single crochet. Remember that each of these sets here are 3 double crochet. There is no chain here. You went from 3 double crochet and then you started your next set immediately. So don't do a single crochet into this space. Make sure it's in the top of each of these stitches. Nothing goes into the spaces at this point. So continue on with your single crochets all the way until you get to your corner, and I'll show you how to work your corner and make your turn onto the other side of your rectangle. Okay, now we're to our chain 2 space, which is our corner. And into this corner, we're going to put 3 single crochets. So we're going to go into the space, and we're going to do a single crochet, and do our second, and do our third. You've got 3 total. This middle one, I'm going to mark it. So that's going to be our corner space when we come back around and do our ruffled edge. So at each of our corners, I'm going to mark that middle single crochet stitch. Now we're going to go onto the side here, and we're going to continue on doing single crochets into the top of every double crochet stitch all the way down to the next corner. And each corner will have 3 single crochets, and use your stitch marker or a safety pin or something to mark that middle stitch. So I'll see you all the way back around when we get to the end, and we'll fasten off our work. I've single crocheted all the way around, and now I'm back to my starting point. I did a single crochet into this last stitch. This stitch right here is where we fastened on and did our chain 1. I want to stop here. Don't do a single crochet into that same stitch where you did your fasten on chain 1. We're going to take our stitch marker off, and right into that space where your stitch marker is, you're going to do a slip stitch. You need to put your crochet hook right into the middle of that chain stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull your hook through and do a slip stitch. Clip your yarn tail about 6 inches long or so, and we're going to fasten off. So yarn over and pull your hook through and pull that yarn all the way through and pull it a little snug and tight there. And that puts one single crochet border all the way around. If you want to add several more single crochet edging before you do your ruffle, that's totally up to you. Now we're ready to start adding our ruffle edging or border to our blanket. I got my pink Bernat Baby Sport yarn. I'm going to do a slip knot. We're going to attach our yarn just like we did all throughout the blanket. I'm going to put my hook through the stitch that I want to start on, add that slip knot right onto that hook and pull it tight, and then pull that yarn through that loop. And I'm going to drop my tail, and then I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. Pull my slip knot a little bit snug on that hook. We're going to chain 2, and I'm going to mark that second chain because that's where we're going to fasten off when we come back all the way around. And to make a ruffled edge, you can do 3 double crochet into this same single crochet stitch and do a set of 3 all the way around. To make it tighter, more ruffly, more full, you can do up to 6 if that's what you want to do. I'm going to do 4 double crochet into each single crochet all the way around the blanket. So we're going to go ahead and do our double crochet. We're going to do 4 of them, and then that chain 2 counts as 1. So in that first stitch you chained 2 and you're going to put 3 double crochet. Then you're going to go into the top of the next single crochet stitch and you're going to put 4 double crochet. If you want it more roughly, like I said, you can put 5, you can put up to 6 double crochet into each of those single crochet stitches for a tighter ruffle. So I'll see you in just a minute when we get to the corner, and we'll just go over once how to handle that corner space. Now I'm down to my corner space. We're going to double the number of double crochet that we've been putting in our single crochet stitches. We're going to double that amount and put that into that corner space. If you are doing 3, double it and do 6. I'm doing 4, so I need to double that. I'm going to do 8. I'm going to put 8 double crochet into this corner stitch where I had my stitch marker. So I'm going to go into that stitch and put 8, and that's going to be your corner. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, it's getting a little tight, 7, and that is 8. That's going to be your corner stitch. And see how pretty and ruffly that edging is? It's going to be such a beautiful little blanket. Now you're going to turn and go down the other way and continue on all the way around till you get back to where we started, and where that stitch marker is into the second chain of that original post. That's where we're going to fasten off, and I'll be back here in just a little while once I get my beautiful little ruffle edge completed, and I'll see you in just a moment. I've made it all the way around my blanket, and I have 1 single crochet left. I'm going to go ahead and put my 4 into that single crochet space, into that stitch, 4 double crochet. That's number 2, and there's number 3, and there's number 4. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this stitch marker out, and right there where that stitch marker is, I'm going to do a slip stitch right into that stitch. Now I'm going to take my scissors and leave a pretty good long yarn tail on this one. Since it is my edging, I like to leave a long one so I can do a lot of sewing in, make sure it doesn't come out. And I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn tail all the way through and pull it tight, snug. Isn't that ruffle pretty? I am just in love with these colors. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Hopefully I'll have more videos out for you just like this soon. If you have any comments, please put them down below. Have a great, wonderful day. God bless and happy crocheting. See you later.